Hello, listeners, and welcome to Everyday English Flow, a place where you can listen to natural English conversations on a variety of interesting topics while improving your English. We're starting a new series where, in each episode, we'll talk about a different topic in English through natural conversations, discussions, stories, and useful everyday expressions. These podcasts are designed to help you improve your listening skills, learn new vocabulary, understand natural English, and become more comfortable with the way English is spoken in real life. For better results, try to listen to one episode every day. The more you listen, the more familiar English will become, and over time, you'll find yourself understanding conversations more easily and speaking with greater confidence. So, put on your headphones, relax, and enjoy the conversation. This is Everyday English Flow. Let's improve your English, one conversation at a time.
Hello, listeners. How are you? Have you ever felt your hands go suddenly cold and your heart start racing, just at the thought of having to say hello to a stranger in English?
Oh, that is such a universal feeling, right?
It really, really is. Welcome to Everyday English Flow, daily English practice, natural speaking, and effortless listening flow.
We are so glad you're here with us today.
Yeah, we are, because today we are taking a deep dive into the physical, emotional, and linguistic hurdles of social anxiety when speaking a new language. And, we're looking at transforming that fear into confident connection.
It's a huge topic, and it's one that basically every language learner faces at some point.
Absolutely. So before we begin, we have a total of 4 important learning points today.
Just to give everyone a clear map of where we're headed.
Right. So first, we'll cover the anatomy of social anxiety and its physical symptoms. Second, navigating the 3 core environments, which are work, class, and strangers. Third, 3 actionable physical tips to overcome mental blocks. And fourth, fixing common beginner mistakes to achieve natural fluency.
And I should mention, if you stick around until the absolute end of our discussion today, there is a special bonus waiting for you.
Ooh, a bonus.
Yeah. We are going to reveal a highly specific, very practical daily strategy that functions as a master key.
Like a master key. Okay, I love that.
Yeah, if you apply this simple rule, it essentially guarantees your progress. It kind of pulls all of these behavioral and linguistic threads together into something you can actually do, like tomorrow morning.
That is awesome. Okay, so we need to start by looking at the actual mechanism of what is happening in the body and the brain.
Right, the biology of it all.
Because when we say social anxiety, the immediate assumption is that this is purely a psychological failing, right? Like a lack of confidence or some sort of personality flaw.
Which is such a toxic way to look at it, honestly.
It is. But if we look at the words themselves, the social meaning, being with people, navigating the hierarchy of a group, attending events, and anxiety meaning this profound, often debilitating sense of worry, we're actually talking about a deeply ingrained biological response.
Precisely. And it is crucial to establish the baseline vocabulary here, especially for our C1 listeners.
Yes, because there's a big difference between just being a little nervous and having actual anxiety.
A vast semantic chasm, really. Simple nervousness is situational. It's fleeting.
Like getting butterflies before a test.
Exactly. It's that flutter in your stomach before you open an exam booklet, and it resolves quickly. But anxiety, however, particularly in this social context, is systemic.
Meaning it affects the whole system.
Right. It is a persistent, heavy anticipation of a threat. And it is believed by many evolutionary psychologists that when you are speaking a new language, this anxiety is amplified tremendously.
Why is that? Why does the new language make it so much worse?
Because you are simultaneously attempting to decode new social cues, new phonetics, and a completely new grammatical structure. Your cognitive load is basically maxed out.
Wait, I have to challenge this idea of a threat, though. I understand getting anxious if a tiger is chasing me. That is a threat.
Sure, physical danger.
Right, but we are talking about, like, walking into a cafe in London and asking for a flat white. Or just saying good morning to a colleague.
Yeah, it doesn't seem life-threatening.
Exactly. Where's the threat? Why on earth do my hands go cold just because I have to conjugate a verb in front of a barista?
Well, it's because your brain, specifically the amygdala, is incredibly ancient. And it is notoriously bad at distinguishing between physical danger and social danger.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. Think about our evolutionary past. Being rejected by the tribe meant you were cast out into the wilderness alone.
Which meant you were probably going to starve.
Exactly. Social rejection was a literal death sentence. So when you open your mouth to speak a foreign language and you feel that you lack the linguistic tools to represent your intelligence properly, your brain perceives a really high risk of social rejection.
So my brain literally thinks a grammar mistake is going to get me exiled from the tribe.
Essentially, yes. And when that fear is triggered, your sympathetic nervous system activates the fight or flight response.
Just over a cup of coffee.
Right. Your heart rate accelerates to pump oxygen to your major muscles so you can run away. Blood is drawn away from your extremities, which is exactly why your hands go cold.
Ah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and your digestive system slows down, causing that butterflies feeling. All of this is happening because you are, trying to remember the past participle of an irregular verb.
That is wild. Which means we are fighting a biological imperative, not just a vocabulary list.
Exact.
That completely shifts the paradigm for me. If the physical reaction, the cold hands, the racing heart, is just the body preparing for a perceived threat, then it is actually a sign that the body is working perfectly.
It is. It's just working perfectly in the wrong context.
Right, right. That is the exact mechanism. And when we understand that mechanism, the problem becomes much less intimidating, I think.
It really does. And to really process this, I want to highlight a highly versatile phrasal verb that is essential for C1 communication.
Oh, perfect. What is it?
Break it down.
Ah, yes. We use that one constantly in English. But let's look at the actual mechanics of that phrase.
So to break something down means to analyze a complex, overwhelming entity by dismantling it into its component parts.
Like taking apart an engine to see how it works.
Exactly. It's an analytical tool. When a concept feels insurmountable, you break it down so you can digest it piece by piece.
So how would we use that in a professional context?
Well, in a corporate strategy meeting, you wouldn't just say, explain this to me. You would say, this merger proposal is incredibly dense. We need to break it down into financial, legal, and operational impacts.
Well, that sounds very advanced. And what about a personal context?
You might say, when the anxiety of moving to a new country feels paralyzing, you have to break it down into daily, manageable tasks.
I see. So it's not just about explaining, it's about structural dismantling. So if we apply that phrasal verb to our topic today, we are taking this massive, terrifying concept of speaking English to native speakers, and we are breaking it down into the physical biology, the environmental context, and the specific syntax.
We are dismantling the monster, basically.
Dismantling the monster. I love that. Which brings up a really important question for the listener.
What's that?
Well, if you are experiencing this, if you are standing outside the door of a meeting room and you feel that cold dread, what is the immediate intervention?
Right, because theory isn't enough in the moment.
Exactly. Because it's one thing to rationally understand that your amygdala is overreacting, but cognitive knowledge doesn't automatically stop a physiological cascade. We need a way to navigate the environments where this anxiety actually strikes.
Which transitions us perfectly into examining those specific environments.
Yeah.
Because the context in which you are speaking radically alters the type of language you need and the type of social pressure you face.
The strategy has to match the room.
Exactly. The strategies for a workplace are entirely different from the strategies for a classroom or, if we're interacting with strangers on the street.
Right. Well, before we move into analyzing these three core environments, and before we look at the exact phrases you need for each, we are crossing the 10-minute mark of our deep dive today. I want to take a quick second to ask you to please like, share, and subscribe.
Yes, please do.
Your support is what allows us to keep bringing you these deep dives, ensuring the flow of knowledge continues. So thank you.
All right, let's focus on the first major arena, the workplace.
Okay, let's dive in.
Imagine the scenario. It is your first day at a new job in an English-speaking office. You are walking into an established ecosystem.
Oh man, that is arguably one of the most intimidating environments ever.
It really is terrifying.
Because you walk in and everyone is already busy. There is a hum of activity, keyboards are clacking, phones are ringing. There is established hierarchies, inside jokes, and office politics that you know absolutely nothing about.
You're completely blind to the social dynamics.
Yeah, and layered on top of all that social complexity, you have to navigate it in a second language.
The cognitive load in that moment is just staggering. But the solution here relies on understanding a fundamental principle of human interaction.
Which is?
Well, before we even look at the English language, we have to look at nonverbal signaling.
Ah, body language.
Yes. The most effective tool you have in this environment is considered the universal hello. which is a genuine smile.
Okay, I have to pause you there
Sure, go ahead.
because the idea of a universal gesture can be pretty tricky. Are we absolutely sure a smile translates universally?
That's a fair question.
Because, I mean, some sociologists argue that in certain cultures, smiling at strangers without a clear reason can actually signal foolishness or even deception.
That is true in some specific contexts.
Right, so if I am entering a highly formal, traditional corporate environment, does a wide grin really serve me well?
That is an excellent point of cultural nuance, and you're right. Contextual registry applies to facial expressions just as much as it applies to vocabulary.
You wouldn't want to look manic.
Exactly. However, it is widely believed by behavioral psychologists who study cross-cultural communication that a subtle, genuine smile, specifically what's called a Duchenne smile, which engages the muscles around the eyes.
Oh, like a smize. Smiling with your eyes.
Yes, exactly. That type of smile functions as an appeasement gesture across almost all human societies.
Appeasement gesture.
Yeah. In an office setting, you are an unknown variable entering their territory. A baseline, polite smile signals a lack of aggression. It basically communicates, I'm cooperative, I am not a threat to the established order.
Okay, so it functions as a sort of biological passport.
I love that analogy. Yes.
It gets you through border control. It lowers the subconscious defenses of your new colleagues before you've even conjugated a single verb.
Precisely. And let's look closely at the language we use to describe entering this space. We frequently use the phrasal verb walk into.
Right. I walked into the office.
Yes. But at a C1 level, we need to recognize that walk into carries significant narrative weight. It isn't merely the physical act of your feet moving across a threshold.
Right, because if I just say, I entered the room, that sounds like, I don't know, a police report.
Exactly. It's purely logistical.
The suspect entered the room at 9 a.m. But if I say, I walked into the room, it feels different.
It implies entering a dynamic. It implies that there is an atmosphere, a situation, or a conflict that pre-exists your arrival.
Okay, give me some examples.
You might say, I walked into a highly stressful negotiation, or he walked into a trap.
Oh, wow. Or like, she walked into the office completely unaware that massive layoffs had just been announced.
Perfect example. The tension is already there.
Yeah.
So when you walk into the workplace on your first day, you are entering a pre-existing social web.
So, you've used the universal hello, you've smiled with your eyes, you've signaled that you aren't a threat to this pre-existing web. Now you actually have to speak.
Right, the scary part.
What is the linguistic strategy here? Because, I mean, the temptation is to over-explain, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. People panic and ramble.
The temptation is to walk up to a new colleague and say, like, hello, my name is David. I am the new data analyst from the Berlin office. I apologize if my English is not perfect. I am very excited to be here, but also a bit nervous.
Which is, frankly, a catastrophic conversational strategy.
Catastrophic. That's a strong word. Why?
Because it dumps an immense amount of emotional labor onto the native speaker who is just trying to get their morning coffee.
Oh, I see. You're forcing them to manage your anxiety.
Exactly. You're making them reassure you. The C1 strategy here is radical brevity.
Radical brevity. I like the sound of that.
The verbal follow-up to the universal hello is merely, good morning, my name is David.
Wait, that's it?
That is entirely it. 4 words. Good morning, my name is.
But doesn't that feel too short?
No, because you let the other person respond. They will likely say, oh, hi, David, nice to meet you, I'm Sarah.
To which you reply,
Nice to meet you, Sarah. The interaction is complete.
wow. So you are establishing presence, not delivering a biography.
Exactly.
And by keeping it radically brief, you are actually protecting yourself from anxiety. Because you really can't panic over grammar if you're only saying 4 words.
That's the beauty of it. You establish a baseline of competence. Now let's contrast this with the second core environment, the classroom.
Ah, okay. The dynamic here shifts entirely.
It really does, because in the workplace, you are the outsider entering the established group, but on the first day of an English class, there is no established group.
It's just a room full of strangers who are all equally terrified.
Which introduces the concept of shared vulnerability.
Shared vulnerability. How does that help us?
It is a massive psychological advantage if you know how to leverage it. In the workplace, you might be the only one struggling with the language barrier. In the classroom, struggling with the language is the unifying purpose of being there.
Okay, so the anxiety is mutual. Everybody's hands are cold.
Exactly.
But how do we break the ice in that environment? What is the linguistic tool?
The most effective tool in an environment of shared vulnerability is a redundant question.
The redundant question, like asking something obvious.
Yes. For instance, sitting down next to someone, leaning over and asking, "Excuse me, is this the advanced English class?" Or, "Excuse me, is this seat taken?"
But wait, if I am sitting in a classroom and the whiteboard literally says advanced English, and I turn to the person next to me and ask, is this the advanced English class? Doesn't that make me look completely unobservant?
It feels like it might.
Right. Why would I ask a question I clearly already know the answer to? I'd be terrified they would look at me like I was an idiot.
I understand that fear, but this points to a profound distinction between the semantic meaning of language and the pragmatic function of language.
Semantics versus pragmatics. Let's break that down.
Okay, in beginner English, you are taught that questions are mechanisms for data retrieval.
Right. You ask, where is the library? Because you genuinely do not know, and you require the data.
Exactly. But in advanced sociolinguistics, questions frequently function as social bids.
Social bids. What does that mean in practice?
A social bid is an attempt to connect. When you ask, "Is this the English class?" you aren't seeking navigational data. You already know you're in the right room.
So what are you doing?
You are extending an invitation to interact. By asking a question with an incredibly obvious answer, you are offering the other person a zero-stress opportunity to speak.
Oh, I see.
They don't have to think of a clever topic. They don't have to formulate a complex opinion. All they have to say is, "Yes, it is."
Oh, that is a fascinating shift in perspective. You're actually doing them a favor.
You really are. You are throwing them the easiest possible ball to catch.
Because if I sat down and asked a highly complex question like, what are your thoughts on the pedagogical methods we might encounter in this syllabus? I would trigger their anxiety. They would freeze.
Completely.
But anyone, regardless of their fluency level, can answer, yes, it is.
Precisely. You are lowering the barrier to entry for the conversation, and once they say, "Yes, it is," you have successfully established a connection.
And then what?
You can then smoothly transition to, "Great, I was worried I was in the wrong room. My name is."
Wow. You have turned a room of isolated, anxious individuals into a community of peers, simply by utilizing a redundant question.
It's almost like linguistic sleight of hand.
It really is. You are using the structure of an information-seeking question to achieve a completely different social goal.
Exactly. Now, this brings us to the most unpredictable environment of all. Environment C, strangers in the wild.
Strangers in the wild, the coffee shop line, the bus stop, the elevator.
Yes. This environment is governed by a specific cultural protocol in English-speaking societies, which is small talk.
Oh, we really need to analyze small talk.
It's crucial.
Because for a lot of learners, it feels incredibly superficial. I've had listeners tell me that in their home cultures, if you don't have something deeply meaningful to say to a stranger, you simply remain silent.
Right. Silence is often valued.
Yeah, silence is a sign of respect. Speaking just to fill the air is considered foolish or even annoying. So the idea of chatting about the weather to someone at a bus stop feels profoundly unnatural to them.
That is a very common cultural friction point. In many high-context cultures, relationship building takes time, and words are reserved for substantive exchange.
So why do native English speakers do it so much?
Because in lower context, highly mobile societies like the US or the UK, small talk is the essential social lubricant. It is a form of what anthropologists call phatic communion.
Phatic communion. Okay, let's break that concept down for our C1 listeners. P-H-A-T-I-C.
Yes, phatic communion refers to language used for general social interaction rather than conveying specific information.
So it's not about the facts being shared.
No, not at all. It is language used to establish an atmosphere of sociability. The primary rule of small talk is that it is explicitly not deep and it is strictly non-philosophical.
Right, so we aren't discussing the meaning of existence on the subway.
Definitely not.
And when we say philosophical in this context, we mean avoiding profound debates about morality, religion, politics, or deep personal truth.
Exactly. Keep it light. It also means an absolute prohibition on intimate personal inquiries.
So what should we avoid?
You do not ask a stranger how old they are, why they aren't married, or how much they pay for their apartment.
Even if you are genuinely curious.
Even then. The goal of small talk is to find immediate, safe, common ground.
Which is why the classic, almost cliched topic is the weather.
It is cliched precisely because it is universally applicable.
That makes sense.
Think about it. If
Yeah.
you and a stranger are standing at a bus stop, you might have completely different political views, different incomes, different religions, and different life goals.
but in that specific moment.
In that specific moment, you are both standing in the exact same rainstorm. The weather is a safe equalizer.
Okay, I get the theory, but how do you actually initiate it naturally?
What do you mean?
Because I can't just stand there, look at the sky, and announce rain is falling. That sounds like a weird robot weather report.
No, you're right. That would be very strange. You need a specific grammatical structure that acts as a hook.
Okay, what's the look?
The most effective tool for initiating small talk in English is the tag question.
The tag question. Like, it's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Yes. Let's look at the mechanics of that.
Okay.
Grammatically, a tag question consists of a declarative statement followed by a mini question. It is a beautiful day is the statement, isn't it? Is the tag.
And what are the rules for forming them?
The standard rule is that if the main clause is positive, the tag is negative and vice versa.
So positive statement, negative tag. It is raining, isn't it?
Exactly. Or negative statement, positive tag. It isn't very warm, is it?
Okay, that's the grammar.
Yeah.
But what's the pragmatics? Because at a C1 level, we care more about the pragmatics than the syntax.
Right, because just like the classroom scenario, you aren't actually asking them for an assessment of the weather.
You know, it's a beautiful day, the sun is shining. You don't need them to confirm the meteorological data.
Exactly. A tag question with a falling intonation, where your voice drops slightly at the end, isn't it, is not a request for information. It is a request for agreement.
Falling intonation. So it's not, isn't IT going up high, it's, isn't it going down?
Yes. It is a subtle invitation for the other person to share a moment of consensus with you.
It's a way of saying, I am experiencing this pleasant moment, and I acknowledge that you are experiencing it too. Do we agree that this is pleasant?
Yes. And the required response from the stranger is incredibly minimal.
What do they say?
They simply have to agree, yes, it is. Or they can mirror the structure back, yes, it really is, isn't it?
Oh, I hear that all the time.
It is a momentary, low-stakes alignment. You have demonstrated that you are observant, friendly, and capable of adhering to social norms.
And once that small connection is made, you can return to silence without it feeling awkward, because the social maintenance has been performed.
Exactly. You've checked the box.
Okay, so we have the theoretical strategies.
Right.
We know to use the universal hello at work. We know to use redundant questions in class. We know to use tag questions for small talk with strangers.
But there is a missing link here.
Yes, there is a massive missing link.
Because knowing the pragmatics, understanding the sociology of phatic communion, and mastering the grammar of a tag question is all cognitive work.
Right. It all happens in the prefrontal cortex. But what happens when you step up to the barista? Your prefrontal cortex knows exactly what to say, but your amygdala hijacks the system.
Like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. What if your body is still freezing up?
Cognitive knowledge alone cannot override a severe physiological stress response. You cannot simply think your way out of a racing heart.
You really can't.
To bridge the gap between knowing the language and actually speaking it, we must introduce physical interventions.
Which brings us to our third major area of focus: actionable physical tips to overcome mental blocks. We are moving from the theoretical to the biological.
How do we train the body to cooperate with the brain?
Let's get into it. We have 3 specific physical strategies.
Yes. Tip number 1 often encounters a lot of resistance from learners, but it is neurologically vital. Practice speaking out loud in front of a mirror.
Oh, I know exactly why learners resist this.
Why do you think?
Standing in your bathroom, looking yourself in the eye and saying, hello, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? Feels intensely foolish. The artificiality of it makes people cringe.
It does feel artificial, but it serves a highly specific neurological purpose.
What is that?
When you practice out loud, you are engaging your motor cortex. You are training the physical muscles of your face, your tongue, and your vocal cords to physically produce the phonetics of English without hesitation.
So it's muscle memory.
Exactly. You are helping your body get used to the physical act of speaking.
Okay, let's stop and look at that phrase, get used to.
Yeah.
This is a notorious stumbling block for intermediate and advanced learners.
Oh, it really is. The distinction between getting used to and just used to.
It is one of the most common errors, even at the C1 level, so it requires a deep dive.
Let's do it. When we say get used to, we are describing a process of acclimatization. We are talking about the transition from something feeling strange and uncomfortable to something feeling normal and familiar.
So if I say, I am getting used to the noise in the city, it means the noise used to bother me, but my brain is currently in the process of adapting to it.
Exactly. Grammatically, it requires the verb get or be conjugated for the correct tense, followed by the fixed phrase used to, and critically, it must be followed by a noun, a pronoun, or a gerund, which is an ing verb.
Okay, wait, let me try to construct a natural sentence here. Let's say I want to talk about moving to a new climate.
Okay.
I could say, when I moved to Canada, I had to get used to driving in the snow. No, wait, that feels wrong.
You fell right into the trap.
Did I? What did I do?
You use the base verb drive. Because to looks like an infinitive marker, our brains want to put a base verb after it. But in the phrase get used to, the word to is functioning as a preposition. Therefore, it must be followed by a gerund.
Ah, right. So it must be, when I moved to Canada, I had to get used to driving in the snow.
Perfect. Driving functions as the noun object of the preposition. Now, contrast that with the phrase used to without the verb get or be.
That one is purely historical, right?
Yes. Used to plus a base verb refers to a past habit or a state of being that was true in the past but is no longer true today.
So I used to live in London, but now I live in New York.
Right. Or, in the context of our topic, I used to panic when I had to speak English on the phone.
I see. So used to panic means it happened in the past, but not anymore. But I'm getting used to speaking English means I'm currently adapting to it.
Precisely. So to bring it back to our physical tip, by practicing in the mirror, you are actively getting used to the mechanics of English pronunciation so that eventually you can look back and say, I used to feel anxious when I spoke.
Oh, that is a perfect linguistic circle. I love that.
Now, tip number 2 deals with the immediate, acute physical response in the moment of stress.
Like when you were standing in that coffee shop line and the panic hits.
Yes. The tip is simple. Focus on your breathing. Specifically, take one slow, deep, diaphragmatic breath.
We need to explain why this works, because it isn't just a psychological trick to distract you. It is a biological override switch.
A biological override switch. That's a great way to put it. Let's explain why.
Right. When social anxiety triggers that fight or flight response we discussed earlier, one of the first physical changes is your breathing.
It becomes rapid and shallow, isolated in the upper chest.
Which creates a vicious cycle, doesn't it?
It does, because the shallow breathing signals to the brainstem that there isn't enough oxygen, which the brain interprets as confirmation that you are, in fact, in extreme physical danger.
Like the tiger's closing in.
Exactly. It dumps more cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream, making the anxiety worse.
Okay, so how does breathing fix that?
Well, the respiratory system is unique because it is the only autonomic function that you can consciously control.
Oh, right. You can't consciously tell your heart to slow down or your digestion to speed up.
But you can consciously control your diaphragm by taking a slow, deep breath, expanding the stomach rather than the chest, and exhaling slowly. You stimulate the vagus nerve.
And the vagus nerve is like the information highway that connects the brain to the body's major organs.
Yes. When you stimulate the vagus nerve with a slow exhale, it sends a chemical signal to your brain that says, we have time to breathe deeply, therefore there is no tiger, we are safe.
It actively activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state. It physically forces your heart rate to slow down.
So before you walk through the office doors, or before it is your turn to order coffee, you take that one deep, intentional breath.
You chemically command your body to stand down. That is so empowering.
Which prepares you for the third and conceptually most profound tip for overcoming mental blocks.
Okay, what's tip number 3?
You must actively reframe your objective. You have to remember that your goal is to connect, not to be perfect.
Oh, man. This is the hardest part for adult learners.
Why is it so hard for adults?
Because adults are used to feeling competent. They are experts in their native language. They are professionals in their careers. To suddenly be reduced to the linguistic level of a child, making basic grammar errors. It is a massive blow to the ego.
It's very humbling.
It is. We want to be perfect to prove our intelligence.
But aiming for perfection is a guaranteed path to silence. If you are constantly running an internal grammar check, if you are auditing every sentence for prepositional accuracy before you allow it to leave your mouth, the conversational moment will pass.
You'll just stand there frozen. I actually have an analogy for this that I think really visualizes the difference between perfection and connection.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, I want you to think of language as a bridge. The entire purpose of a bridge is to allow a person or an idea to travel from one side of a river to the other.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now, if your goal is perfection, you are treating language like a museum exhibit. You are obsessing over the aesthetic design of the bridge. You are polishing every bolt, you are repainting the handrails, you are making sure every single plank of wood is perfectly aligned.
The polish and the paint being your grammar, your vocabulary, and your accent.
Exactly. You are terrified to let anyone walk on the bridge until it is a flawless masterpiece.
But if your goal is connection.
Yes, if your goal is connection, you recognize that the bridge is a functional tool. The purpose is traversal, not exhibition.
Getting across the river.
Right. It doesn't matter if the bridge has some chipped paint. It doesn't matter if you use the wrong preposition, or if one of the boards is slightly crooked, meaning you stumbled over your pronunciation.
Because if the other person can successfully walk across that bridge, understand your intention, and feel your friendly demeanor, the bridge has functioned perfectly.
The chipped paint doesn't stop the connection. And the reality is, native speakers don't care about the chipped paint. They truly don't.
They really don't notice it half the time.
Exactly. If you smile and ask for a coffee, the barista is not secretly grading your use of the present perfect continuous tense. They're just trying to hand you a cappuccino.
That analogy of traversal versus exhibition is crucial. It is widely acknowledged by applied linguists that native speakers are highly tolerant of syntactic errors as long as the pragmatic intention is clear and polite.
So the meaning is more important than the structure.
Always. The only time a mistake truly hinders communication is if it alters the fundamental meaning, which is rare in everyday contexts.
So we practice in the mirror to train the motor cortex. We breathe to stimulate the vagus nerve and control the cortisol. And we let go of the burden of exhibition, focusing only on traversal.
We build the bridge, chipped paint, and all.
And paradoxically, once you let go of the rigid demand for perfection, your language actually begins to flow much more naturally.
It does. Which leads us to our fourth and final major point of analysis today. Elevating your English from rigid textbook mechanics to natural fluency.
This is where we discuss the toll booths we accidentally build on our own bridges.
I like that. The toll booths.
Because sometimes, knowing the perfect grammatical rule actually traps you in unnatural speech patterns.
These are known as conversational traps.
What exactly is a conversational trap?
They are habits that intermediate learners develop because they are striving for grammatical flawlessness, but they fail to understand the sociolinguistic registry of casual conversation.
Okay, let's look at mistake one, which is perhaps the most universally taught response in the history of English education.
I think I know what this is.
When someone asks, "How are you?"
Mm-hmm.
the default textbook response is, "I am fine."
Yes. We need to unpack the cultural and pragmatic weight of the word fine.
Because it's not actually a great answer, is it?
Not at all. From a purely syntactic perspective, I am fine is unimpeachable. It is a subject, a to-be verb, and an adjective. Flawless.
But pragmatically,
Its registry, its level of formality, and the unspoken emotion it conveys is severely mismatched with natural, friendly interaction.
it sounds incredibly rigid. It sounds like a robot reporting its operational status. I am fine.
It does. But worse than sounding robotic, in modern casual English, the word fine carries quite a bit of cultural baggage.
What kind of baggage?
Well, because native speakers value brevity and relaxed rhythm, answering a cheerful "how are you" with a stiff "I am fine" can actually signal that you are not fine.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with this. If I ask my spouse, "How was your day?" and the response is a flat, "I am fine," my immediate internal reaction is, "Oh no, what did I do wrong?"
Right.
It signals defensive closure. It puts up a wall. It basically says, "I am functioning, but I do not wish to discuss it further."
The pragmatic meaning completely overrides the literal meaning. The listener hears distress, or at the very least, a desire to terminate the conversation.
So to achieve that effortless listening flow, you must adopt the more casual, colloquial options that native speakers actually use.
Things like, "I'm good," or "not bad," or "pretty good, thanks."
Exactly. These phrases don't just convey your mood, they convey a relaxed sociability. They show that you understand the rhythm of the culture.
And speaking of rhythm, that brings us to mistake 2, which is another massive trap for learners who are trying to prove their competence.
Which is?
The refusal to use short answers.
This goes back to the exhibition mindset.
It does. Learners feel that if someone asks them a question, they must provide a full, complete subject-verb-object sentence to prove that they understood the vocabulary.
Let's contextualize this for the listeners.
Okay, imagine you are at a conference and a colleague points to a folder on a table and asks, "Is this the quarterly report?" A learner who is trying to be perfect might reply, Yes, this is the quarterly report.
Which, again, is grammatically person.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in a fast-paced conversation, repeating the entire premise of the question back to the speaker feels incredibly exhausting. It halts the momentum.
It feels very unnatural.
It violates one of the fundamental rules of cooperative conversation, often referred to by linguists as Grice's maxims. Specifically, the maxim of quantity.
It's maximum quantity. What does that state?
You should provide as much information as is required, but no more.
So repeating the noun phrase, the quarterly report, is redundant.
Exactly. Brevity demonstrates a much higher level of language mastery because it shows that you are comfortable with the context. You don't need to anchor yourself to the full sentence structure.
You can just use the pronoun. You can simply say, yes, it is, or no, it isn't.
Precisely. Let's actually demonstrate this for the listeners. I want to do a role play, and we are going to analyze the rhythm.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do the rigid textbook version first. I will play the learner who is terrified of making a mistake and is relying on full, formal sentences.
Okay, and I will be the native speaker trying to make friendly conversation. Ready?
I am ready.
Hi there. It's really crowded here today. How are you doing?
I am fine. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, it's wild. Is it your first time coming to this coffee shop?
Yes, this is my first time coming to this coffee shop.
Okay, let's pause and analyze that. Listeners, you can physically hear the drag in that exchange.
It was so heavy.
It was. Every time you answered, the conversation came to a complete stop. As the native speaker, I felt like I was interrogating a witness in a courtroom, not chatting with a neighbor. The burden of keeping the conversation alive fell entirely on me.
And from the learner's perspective, I was focused entirely on grammatical accuracy. I made sure every word was pronounced clearly and every sentence was complete.
But in doing so, you completely failed to connect.
I built a perfect bridge, but I put a toll booth right in the middle of it.
That is exactly what it felt like.
Oh.
So let's do the exact same scenario, but this time, apply the rules of natural fluency. Use casual registry and short answers.
Understood. Let's try again.
Hi there. It's really crowded in here today. How you doing?
Pretty good, thanks. How about you?
Not bad. Just trying to get some caffeine.
Yeah.
Is this your first time coming to this coffee shop?
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
Much better, right?
The difference in the energy is night and day. The second version breathes. It has momentum.
The short answer, yeah, it is, didn't sound less intelligent. It actually sounded vastly more confident.
Confidence in a second language often looks like knowing what you don't need to say.
That is so true. By not repeating the entire sentence, I allowed the conversation to flow forward. I made space for you to ask the next question or for me to follow up with, do you have any recommendations on what to order?
Knowing what you don't need to say. That is a brilliant way to summarize natural fluency. So we have dismantled the biology of anxiety.
Yes, the amygdala and the fight or flight response.
We have mapped out the social strategies for the workplace, the classroom, and small talk. We've learned the physical interventions, mirror practice and breathing to calm the nervous system. And we've polished the bridge, replacing rigid textbook responses with the brevity of natural fluency.
Which means we have arrived at the moment we promised at the very beginning of the deep dive.
Oh, yes. It is time for the bonus strategy.
Because taking in all this information is wonderful, but information without application is just trizia.
Exactly. How does a listener actually integrate this into their busy life without becoming overwhelmed?
Well, the bonus strategy is what we call the 5-minute daily rule.
The 5-minute daily rule. Let's examine the mechanics of this because it sounds almost too simple to be effective. Just 5 minutes.
Its simplicity is exactly why it is effective. The core principle here is neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself.
Yes. We often believe that to master a language, we need intense, prolonged study sessions, sitting at a desk for 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon, cramming grammar rules.
Which usually just leads to burnout, frustration, and, ironically, more anxiety because you realize how much you don't know.
Exactly. Intensity does not build neural pathways effectively. Consistency does.
So what does the rule require?
The 5-minute daily rule requires you to dedicate just 5 uninterrupted minutes a day to active English practice.
What does that active practice look like?
It could be standing in front of the mirror practicing those tag questions out loud. It's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Okay, the mirror practice we talked about.
Right. It could be role-playing the coffee shop scenario in your car while driving to work, or it could be taking 5 minutes to focus on diaphragmatic breathing while visualizing a successful workplace introduction.
So it's really about frequency of exposure.
Yes. If you only practice speaking English when you are forced to in a high-stress environment, like a sudden phone call from a client, your brain associates the English language with panic. It's a rare, terrifying event.
That makes total sense. Every time you use English, your amygdala fires.
Precisely. But if you practice out loud for 5 minutes every single day, you are myelinating those neural pathways.
Myelinating. Adding that protective sheath around the nerves.
Yes, you are coating the neurological connections in a protective layer that makes the signals travel faster. When you face a real-life situation, your brain doesn't trigger the amygdala because it says, oh, we know how to do this. We do this every morning in the bathroom mirror. This is normal.
The phrase to remember here is, practice makes progress.
Notice we explicitly did not say practice makes perfect.
Because perfection is the enemy of connection.
Exactly. We want progress. We want the chipped paint on the bridge.
Practice makes progress. And honestly, anyone can find 5 minutes. You could do it while the kettle is boiling.
Right.
It completely lowers the stakes of language learning.
It transforms an overwhelming mountain into a daily habit.
As we draw this deep dive to a close, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, provocative thought to mull over on your own.
A little something extra.
Yes. We spent this time breaking down the mechanics of language, the vocabulary, the pragmatic functions of tag questions, the registry of short answers.
Right.
But take a step back and consider this. If a simple silent smile is considered a universal hello that can defuse workplace tension, and if asking a stranger about the weather is merely a sociological tool for establishing a safe connection.
Where are you going with this?
Well, how much of our communication is actually dependent on the specific grammatical structures we use? And how much of it is simply about demonstrating to another human being that we are open, cooperative, and willing to share a moment with them?
Oh, wow. That is a profound perspective. Are the words just the wrapping paper for the underlying message, which is simply, I see you and I am safe?
I think they might be.
I love that. To build on that and to put our C1 linguistic skills to the test, I have a question for you, the listeners.
Okay, let's hear it.
We focused heavily on the concept that consistency builds mastery, using the idea that every big journey starts with a small step. How would you explain the phrase, a small step, in the context of your own life and your own language journey?
That's a great prompt.
Or, if you prefer a structural challenge, try writing a sentence using the phrasal verb break it down in a professional context. Write your answers in the comment section below. We read them, and we love seeing how you apply these concepts.
Yes, we do. Please like, share, and subscribe. It truly is the fuel that allows us to keep researching, recording, and delivering these deep dives to you.
It really is.
And when you go to the comment section to answer that question, don't forget to write, I stay committed, in the comment box, so we know you are dedicated to your everyday English flow and that you are taking on the 5-minute daily rule.
We truly believe in your capacity to make progress. Every time you take a deep breath, every time you choose a short answer, every time you prioritize connection over perfection, you are winning the battle against anxiety.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep smiling.